In most fantasy stories, magic operates as the ultimate leveler. An outcast with the right spell can topple a kingdom and rewrite their own destiny. But that assumes the people in charge will simply let them cast it. When a ruling class relies on strict hierarchies to maintain control, natural-born power in the hands of the underclass becomes a direct threat to their survival. Writers usually cap these abilities with simple mana limits or elemental weaknesses. A fire mage gets tired, or they can't fight in the rain. These rules balance a fight scene, but they rarely challenge the structure of the society itself. The series The Annals of an Angel takes a different approach. The government requires dark obsidian crystals to be physically embedded into citizens' arms to artificially drain and suppress their natural magical abilities. Truly terrifying magic suppression relies on the tools of institutional control, systems engineered to mirror the actual architecture of historical oppression. Systemic control requires a paper trail. A society doesn't subjugate an entire population by accident. It engineers the process through deliberate, codified law. Look at the United States during the brief window of the Reconstruction era. Following the Civil War, formerly enslaved African Americans secured massive political power, stepping into roles as elected officials across local, state, and federal governments. Southern states quickly drafted new constitutions to implement Black codes and Jim Crow laws. These legal frameworks specifically targeted voting rights, restricted movement, and aggressively blocked economic independence to restore white supremacy. When building a fantasy world, your magic suppression needs this same institutional backing. It shouldn't be a random anomaly. It needs to be a state-mandated requirement, enforced by the courts and written into the very laws of the land. Oppressors rarely write laws saying they want to crush their citizens. They frame their cruelty as a necessary measure for public safety or preventing magical chaos. The restriction is sold to the public as peace. When the law is weaponized against natural ability, the magic system transforms into an inescapable, legalized cage. Legislation only works if a physical force is willing to back it up. Historically, when unjust laws failed to completely break marginalized communities, vigilante terror took over. Paramilitary groups like the Ku Klux Klan emerged to suppress political resistance through extrajudicial violence and intimidation. This FBI memorandum details racial violence in Dallas County, Alabama. It describes a mounted posse of officers chasing and striking dispersing marchers with clubs, while white spectators actively cheered them on. Maintaining supremacy was a collaborative, community-wide effort. In your story, you have to establish who enforces the suppression. If a citizen attempts to shatter their obsidian crystal or practice unregistered magic, there needs to be an inquisitorial force or an extremist civilian faction waiting to hunt them down. Giving suppressive laws a violent enforcement arm turns a passive magic system into an active, breathing antagonist that stalks your protagonist at every turn. Living under that constant threat forces a heavy psychological toll on an individual. When society is actively designed to crush your potential, survival demands that you hide it. This mirrors the historical necessity of masking. Marginalized people frequently had to downplay their intelligence, their ambition, and their wealth to avoid drawing the ire of a hostile ruling class. This 1921 Red Cross report documents the Tulsa race massacre's aftermath, calculating property losses in the Greenwood district at $3.5 million. This violence was a targeted effort to eradicate a highly successful Black community that achieved economic autonomy without masking their success. You see this exact survival mechanism in The Annals of an Angel. The character Prince Drake possesses staggering top-tier abilities, but he is forced to bind his powers beneath his obsidian crystals and pretend to be entirely ordinary. In a well-realized suppressive world, the true tension relies on the agonizing anxiety of being discovered. The character's baseline identity is a crime, dictating how they speak, where they look, and who they dare to trust. Basing magic suppression on the mechanics of systemic control anchors a story in the reality of human power dynamics, framing magical growth as a struggle for endurance and identity. When a society's legal and physical infrastructure is built specifically to restrain a character, rejecting those constraints carries massive emotional weight. Reclaiming that power represents a total collapse of the state's authority over the individual. The shattering of those crystals serves as a triumphant act of revolution. Reclaiming that magic strips the state of its most intimate tool of control. How do you handle power dynamics in your own writing? Have you ever used your magic system to tackle real-world social themes? You can see these mechanics play out in text by reading The Annals of an Angel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next video.